The storm came out of nowhere. 1 minute, the sea was calm, with just a few clouds on the horizon, and the next, the sky turned black as night. The wind howled through the rigging, and the waves rose to monstrous heights, crashing over the deck with such force that I thought the ship might break apart. I had been through storms before, but this one was different. There was something in the air, something that made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. It wasn't just the cold or the wind, it was a feeling of dread, a sense that we were not alone. I tried to shake off the unease, focusing on keeping the ship steady, but the feeling gnawed at me like a living thing, wrapping itself around my thoughts. As the storm raged on, the sky and sea became one, a chaotic swirl of dark water and violent winds. The ship pitched and rolled, and I could hear the desperate cries of the crew, their voices lost in the roar of the tempest. It felt as though we were being swallowed by the storm itself, as if the ocean had opened up to claim us. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw it, a shadow moving beneath the waves. At first, I thought it was just the tricks of the storm, the way the lightning flickered on the water. But then the shadow grew, darkening the sea around it, far too large to be any creature I knew. My heart pounded in my chest as I realized that whatever it was coming closer. I leaned over the rail, peering into the churning water, and that's when I saw the first tentacle. It shot up from the depths like a massive serpent, thick as a tree trunk and covered in slimy, glistening scales. The suction cups along its length were the size of dinner plates, each one pulsing and gripping the air with terrifying strength. With a sickening crunch, it wrapped itself around the ship's bow, the wood groaning and splintering under the pressure. Panic spread through the crew like wildfire. Men scrambled across the deck, slipping on the rain-slicked wood, their faces pale with fear. I stood frozen, unable to tear my eyes away from the monstrous limb that had us in its grasp. The tentacle tightened, pulling the ship downward, and I could feel the deck tilt beneath my feet as water rushed over the sides. But it wasn't just one tentacle, more followed, rising from the water like the limbs of some ancient, vengeful god. Each one was thicker than the last, coiling around the ship with terrifying speed, squeezing and crushing everything in its path. The creature's body began to emerge from the sea, a massive, hulking mass of sinew and muscle, covered in scales that shimmered like oil in the storm's light. Then I saw its eyes, two enormous, glowing orbs, filled with a cold, malevolent intelligence. They stared at us, at me, with a hunger that sent a shiver down my spine. This was no mindless beast, this was something ancient, something that had lived in the depths of the ocean for longer than we could imagine. And now it had us. The ship creaked and groaned under the pressure, the wood splintering as the creature dragged us further into the storm. The water was rising fast, flooding the lower decks, and I knew we were sinking. The monster seemed to relish our terror, its tentacles tightening with every passing moment, squeezing the life out of the ship and everyone on board. The sound of the ship breaking apart was deafening, a cacophony of snapping wood and twisting metal, drowned out only by the thunderous roar of the creature itself. Desperation took hold of me. I stumbled toward the captain's quarters, the ship tilting so steeply now that I had to claw my way up the stairs. Inside, I found the flare gun, my hands trembling as I loaded it. I knew it was a long shot, a last, hopeless effort, but I had to try. I had to do something. I burst back onto the deck, nearly losing my footing as the ship lurched violently. The creature was closer now, its massive body rising from the water, and I could see the rows of jagged teeth in its gaping maw. It was going to devour us, swallow the entire ship whole. I aimed the flare gun at one of its eyes, the glowing orbs that seemed to pierce through the storm, and pulled the trigger dot. The flare shot through the air, a bright red streak against the black sky. It hit its mark, exploding in a burst of light right in the creature's eye. For a moment, time seemed to stand still. The creature recoiled, letting out a roar so loud it shook the very air around us. The tentacles loosened, and I thought, just for a moment, that we might survive. But the creature wasn't done with us. It surged forward with renewed fury, its remaining eye blazing with rage. The ship tilted violently, and I was thrown to the deck as the sea swallowed us whole. The last thing I saw before the darkness closed in was the monstrous maw of the sea beast, wide enough to consume us all. When I awoke, I was alone, drifting on a piece of shattered wood in the middle of the vast, empty sea. The storm had passed, leaving only the wreckage of our ship behind. There was no sign of the creature, no sign of my crew, just the endless expanse of water and the lingering sense that it was still out there, watching, waiting for its next victim. I never spoke of what I saw that night. Who would believe me? But every time I close my eyes, I see it again, the eyes, the tentacles, the hunger. And I know, deep down, that the sea holds far more than we can ever imagine, far more than we should ever dare to confront. Even now, as I drift toward an uncertain fate, I can't shake the feeling that it's not over, that the monster is still out there, lurking in the depths, waiting to rise again. And next time, there may be no escape.